morning, Mike.
Good morning, Joe. How are you, man?
Well, good. Good. And we're here at FedEx Ecos trying to get a couple of
Oh,
things
on your
printed
boat.
off for,
Trying to mail on your boat.
well, yeah, a beautiful day out. So, got a meeting with Ed. We're meeting with the financial planner guy, kind of rolling out growth drive stuff, kind of explaining it.
Good for you.
Anyways, just listening in here this morning and join in a little bit later on videos.
Hey, yeah, how are you?
Did you do something with Vistage? I understand that.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I did I belong to kind of rogue.
Yep.
We kind of we used to be Vistage, and then our chairman passed away, and then we kind of regrouped, and we kind of had someone else take over that spot, the chairman spot, but we didn't stay in Vistage. We kind of formed our own Vistage group, and we do the same thing Vistage does, and we hire the same speakers they do, but we don't pay as much to be a member.
Sure. Yeah.
So yes, that's so I did a presentation to them to my group, that rogue group that my chair recorded for me, and then we sent it to the woman down here in Florida who books all these Vistage speakers, and she has a copy of it, and she's out there trying to get me sessions or engagements, if you will. But so that's where I am with that. And then we have the other group that I formed with a bunch of other folks called the Exit Advisor Alliance. We have, and it's an exit planning forum for business advisors to help them understand the exit planning process and to educate their owners. We have an event coming up on November 12th down here called the Business Owners Summit, and it's a post-election. The theme is post-election. What can you expect from the economy? We have economists coming in, bankers coming in, talking about what they expect the economy and the banking environment to look like post-election. Also, we have some tax people from the income tax side and also from the estate tax side talking about that. And then me and another gentleman, two CEPAs, the certified exit planner, we're going to talk about the three necessary ingredients for a successful exit. And then we have a panel of buyers talking about private equity and strategic buyers talking about the ideal seller profile. And then we have a panel talking of exited business owners to kind of tell what their experience was going through the process. So that's we have that coming up in a week, less than a week.
Agenda. It's been like,
Yeah. So one of the things that me and this other gentleman we're tossing around is that, and you guys probably have done this and I haven't, and that's why I tap into this great network here, is that we were thinking that, we're going to have about 50 business owners attend this event, and we were thinking about offering some type of business mastermind group as a result of our presentation, where we talk about the things you need to do to have a successful exit. We use Chris Snyder's the three legs of the stool concept, and so we were thinking about like offering initially like putting together a couple of mastermind groups where we would, initially go in and kind of educate them, but eventually take it to a different level. And that's where I don't know how those groups would work, and that's why I'm asking the question: How would you put together something like that for the business owners if you were to form a mastermind group to talk about how they can conduct a successful eventual exit?
yeah, it's being Vistage chair for 10 years. There's a lot of support behind you in the Vistage community, right? But you're still on your own to recruit your guys or gals. I always look at it through a bit of a personality chemist is how I termed it. So, you're going to get some people who are just tire kickers in there, and you're going to get some people that are really committed, and then you deal with the conflicts of interest that might be a competitor that wants to be in the same group. So there's devil in the detail, if you will. If you have it kind of a more looser, we're going to have I might suggest you do some sort of preset calendar that you could come and visit, sit in for the topics of interest, and, not worry about competitors, not worrying about, trying to make it any more than what it is. It's a way for you guys to network and also, have a preset agenda. If you want to go a little further with that, and I think you're probably going to have some expenses. The Vistage model, they've taken out the meeting expense, having the different owners host the meeting. It really helps defray some of the costs. So I'm, as a chair, you're not outloading any event space or any costs associated with meals, or so that's the thing that they, if you just look at all the costs associated with operating that, one of them is meeting space. And then if you are to meet in person, you can do it all virtual, low cost, high quality delivery, and just have an open forum to promote it, ahead of time, month out, whatever, saying, hey, this is the topic this month. Hope you can stop by and visit. That might be the light version. And it can end in mind, right? So you really want to make money at this thing, or you just want to be as a soft promotional outlet for you guys. And once again, you can get the things recorded, and you have some canned material that you could post up online or have available on your website to be, the resident expert. Most of the time, what I found is that the entrepreneur wants to know there's a toolbox somewhere and a nose of the wrench somewhere, but most of the time they don't need to be looking at that wrench. They have other things going on. So when it's time to open up the toolbox and grab that wrench, it's a bit of a, be right place, right time. So how do you make that happen? So those 50 members, could you give them access to a library, subjects, and then, bring those subjects to life every month on a rotating basis, maybe pick two. And I love the idea of having the graduated business owners there, because I think that draws, what's like on the outside. I'm in this rat race of a thing called business ownership. And, there's nice to know that there's something beyond that. That's really my experience, and been really attractive to have a existing, survivor, if you will, and share their experience. And they love to talk about stuff post-transaction. So I don't know if there's enough information, but.
No, I thank you. Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate your input.
Hey, Michael, George could speak to this better than I, but I went through the mastermind groups that George orchestrates are under the umbrella of LX Council. And I went through the training and paid my check, but I could never get a group launched. But anyway, the way they do it, generally speaking, at the 20,000 foot level is, it's not focused on solving a particular problem, but for each meeting, there's 2 or 3 or 4, depends on how complex. If I remember the acronym, COPI's, challenge, opportunity, problem, issue, that though some number of those get selected, and the business owners try to solve that issue during the meeting, or not solve, but at least provide the problem, provide the individual, the business owner, with the issue, some degree of insight and some approach to dealing with it. So I think that's a good way of running a mastermind. And there, in Ox Council, there's both virtual as well as, face to.
Yeah, I know Larry runs the one, and I know our friend in Chicago runs an LX Council. And I think a lot of people that had initially envisioned that as a awesome way to really network and build up a relationship found it never happened. Is that appropriate, Steve?
Yeah, I would totally agree there. At that you're either an advisor or you're a consultant in the LX Council world. It's not like you're going to pick up everybody as a client, and there's a little bit of a bristling because they kind of knew, they're a little bit on edge as far as you're trying to sell them something when they're in the meeting, and, so to kind of be that neutral party, it's much better to get a referral in from somebody to that client versus, but then again, I've seen people do it very well. Sounds like our husband and wife team there are doing it. So it's hard to prop up a team, that's for sure. Excellent.
Yeah, there is a conflict. As Joe said, there's a conflict of interest if you're trying to sell services at the same time.
Okay. Thank you. Who just joined?
Sylvania.
Who's that?
Silvana.
Silvana. How are you?
She's a
Good.
DC lady.
Oh, yes, I remember.
Sorry, I have a client meeting early in the morning and it always runs late. And I'm the organizer, so I cannot just close the meeting. How is everybody doing today?
Everybody's doing. I'm doing. Man, I'm fine.
Yeah, we're looking at record temperatures up here in Columbus today.
It's pretty warm here too.
They think they're going to beat the old record by like 4 to 5 degrees.
My gosh.
Because when it's 64 degrees already,
Yeah, today
we haven't started.
too warm.
I'm not going to tell you how warm it is down here in South Florida.
Thank you.
But I'm going to do it. Right now it's 80. Right now it's 84.
Is that inside the building or outside?
It's that's pretty cool for us at 80. If it's in the 80s,
So where is our fearless leader today?
he's out voting. No, I don't know where he is. I'm joking. I don't know. George usually makes these things unless he has something pressing, but hopefully.
I need to go vote too. I'm merely voting. So today,
Okay. Yeah.
So just to cycle back everybody from what our conversation was last week, I had not forgotten. I just been back-to-back conferences until Sunday, so I'm catching up, as fast as I can. So I will send a note to everybody to rally up the team as far as the use cases are concerned. And I haven't had a chance to talk to George about the current use case. Starting with that, it's on my list of things to do, and I was going to mention to him if he was on the call, but I will ping him later, and then I'll figure out here the circle. I haven't really sent any notes on the circle, so I'll figure out how to send everybody a note in saying, hey, we're collecting use cases. So on my list of things to do this week.
Okay, we're going to hold you to it, so
Please do. Accountability is very important. That's what I tell my clients. So it's nice to be accountable to someone.
No doubt about that.
So Michael, you didn't make if I'm not wrong, you didn't make the conference, right?
You're not wrong. I did not make the last conference. That is correct.
So we missed you. What's happening?
Well, same old, same busy.
I hear you're killing it down there.
No, I wouldn't say that. That's an overstatement. I'm not killing it, but I am using George's software quite often now. A lot of people like it. I have a big client that I'm working with now, taking him through the whole process. Right, Clarity 1. I'm almost finished with Clarity 2, and then I'm going to deliver the strategic capacity report, and then after that, we're going to go into probably a strategic planning session. And then, as you pointed out, accountability meetings, right? So I've used growth spurts for that. And that's been it's been very, very useful. And it's a good experience. So it's very enlightening to, I know George has all these questions that you are to ask people. And then, I'm dealing with an architectural firm that has 9 partners, right? So first I had to do an alignment workshop to make sure. First I gave them the Clarity 1 questionnaire, and I got 9 different sets of answers, and they were all over the place. So then I had to do an alignment workshop to get everybody on the same page to have a consensus view of the business. And then we started doing a deep dive. But, I learned a lot by asking. When you start asking these questions that George has in his process, right? You get all kinds of interesting responses. A lot of people, first of all, there's a lot of people that want to understand what the question means. Like, what do you mean by that?
Yes.
What do you mean by having that? And then, there's all kinds of variations, right? A lot of folks, and this is an architectural firm with 9 partners, right? So they're not unsophisticated. But, when you tell them that you have a documented sales process, in a professional firm, they're like, no, everyone has a documented sales process in their head, and everyone does whatever.
Exactly.
I get business this way. And then someone else says, well, I do it this way. But to have a firm-wide documented sales process, so then they start saying, well, we don't have, that doesn't apply to us. Why should we have something that's a documented sales process when each partner has a different selling style, and so you can't have a uniform process to sell, right? So you get, and it's a good answer, right? So, and then when you have to answer that question, you got to say, well, it's not true. They don't have a documented sales process, right? And if you answer it not true, then you know that it's going to come back and it's going to be highlighted as something they need to attack, right? So, but how does a firm attack that issue? And maybe we haven't gotten there yet, but perhaps, even though everyone has a different style, I don't know, I just don't know how they're going to deal with that unless it's more about each person then needs to, it's more about, if you don't have a documented system, maybe you have something that you can, maybe it's, you need to create some kind of transferable knowledge base so that, the senior people take junior people out with them and they show them their style, and then you rotate those people around so they gravitate to a style they like, but they're learning how to do it based on being mentored by someone else. And maybe that's the process. It's a
very interesting point that you brought up.
That's just one of the examples that I'm coming across, because a lot of these smaller firms, even though they're smaller, they're profitable, right? They kind of, and then I get a lot of noise about, well, we don't want to be the big company. We don't want to be the big, we don't want all that structure. We recruit people because we're not that structured, we want to be more of a family kind of feel type of, we don't want to be the bigger firms. That's why people want to work for us.
I think, Michael, one of the things that I've found when I've done several of the architectural type of things, and that is, I worked with one where there were 5, and it seemed like one partner was like doing 75% of the sales, and the other 4 were doing 25%. And so what I did was I started to put together a chart for them to show how many proposals they were making and how many were getting closed by individual employee. And when they looked at that, they all suddenly realized the owner who was going to be leaving was the only one that was really making sales, and nobody else was picking up. I mean, there was no such thing as a second, third, and fourth. It was from first down to 5th. I mean, they all were barely doing anything, and they all worked only on the niche that they happened to have been familiar with, or where they came through. And so they weren't really out soliciting the marketplace the way the owner of the firm had been, or the lead partner. And the neat thing about it is that he's telling them, he gave them 3 years of warning that he was going to believe, I'm going to be leaving, I'm going to be leaving. And you guys have got to start learning how to do the sales and to get out there and bring in business. And regretfully, at the end of the 3 years, they never did it. And it turned out we made a sale to another architectural firm because nobody internally was making any sales that could have supported the business.
So, and what do you think they should have done? What could they have done to say?
If they had a sales methodology, and it often is define the target. And so what was the focus of that particular expertise in the firm and or the individual? And so you segment it out in 2 sections, either individual or the firm's strengths based on what they've been doing. And then get them to who's going to take on what facet of that to become the next expert in those areas. And have a 2-year training program to get them good at those particular functions.
Who did the training? Who would do the training?
What we suggested the owner was that they get out of the way and let's bring in a training person that does nothing but an HR person that does nothing but sales training.
kind of like a Sandler, kind of like one of these Sandler groups that
one of that's exactly what we suggested.
okay, I got you. I'm just trying to, because I could see that happening, and it happens in every professional. I was in a couple of CPA firms. Yeah, there's a couple of people that bring in all the work, and the rest of them are great. They get the work done, right?
Correct.
We use the phraseology in the accounting. We had minders, grinders, and finders. All right,
You got it.
minders, grinders, and finders.
You see that in a lot of law firms.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing, and you need all of them. But the person who brings in the work is, if they're gone, then, if you don't have the work, then I don't care how good you are in getting it done and minding it, you got nothing to do. So the minders and grinders don't want to hear that, but yeah, they're valuable, no doubt, but they hate, bowing down to the finders, because oftentimes they look at the finders as being just salespeople. And they don't know how to handle it. They don't do any of the work. They don't deal with it. So it's,
in the first quarter of this past year, I worked with a young lady that was going to be buying 25% of an architectural firm, and the owner was retiring out, and that was going to be, she was buying his 25%. Well, it turned out that she had more sales skill than any of the other three partners in the firm, and so she, since February, when she took over and has joined it, they said she's now generating close to 52% of the revenue, according to the accountants who does the bookkeeping for them, and said she is definitely demonstrating. And as a young lady that's only like 35 or something like that, she's just blowing away the market. And I agree, she's in a niche in the rural area and does really good work, and she pays attention and digs in. Yet she's still got a family obligation because she's got two little kids that are under 10.
very good. So George is, I guess he's busy.
So, Michael.
Hi.
I was wondering if I can ping you for some of the use cases, just to catch you up a little bit. What we discussed last week, and we also discussed this at Charleston where we missed you, was that we are going to try to put together like a portfolio of use cases that demonstrate the value of clarity and growth drive. And in order to do that, what we're going to take the current use case that George has. Pardon me, I was just making a coffee, and so I didn't want to disrupt the meeting. So we're going to take the use case that George has, but what we're hoping is, and I've been thinking a lot about this, is I would like to choose representative cases of the type of work that we growth advisors can do for the companies, absolutely sanitize them. And by sanitizing, I'm meaning like taking anything that, leaving the calculations, because that's where the meat is, but sanitize the rest. And with the idea is for the whole, growth drive team to be able to have access to the type of cases that showcase what can be done to the prospective clients. So our BD and our ability to articulate the value proposition is stronger. And so if you're open for it, I would love to talk to you and then figure out if you have any representative cases. I'm thinking we can go size-wise, like a compilation of different sizes, maybe particular industries, and maybe sometimes pain points, because we would like to be able to talk to the future clients and demonstrate to them that we have solved similar problems. So the more representative the cases are, the better it is.
Yeah, sure. I'd be more than happy to.
Excellent.
Reach out to me at your convenience.
That's great. And same with you, Ed. I don't know how much you're using Growth Drive specifically in all your client work, but if you can shoot me a note and tell me, what are some of the cases that might be worthwhile, then I can take it from there and then start the process.
Yeah, Savannah, I was going to I started to say, I think Ed's probably a fertile ground.
I figured. But since we have Michael here and hopefully he's going to join us next week, I want to make sure that I didn't lose the opportunity. So
Don't ignore anyone.
no. Actually, I'm going to ping everybody. They're going to hear from me. And I'm also thinking that after I have a good sense of the type of cases that are out there and they are able to be shared, then we can have a good conversation about what are representative cases and why. But so far, I've come up with 3, which is problem that, we're trying to address, or the problem that the clients are coming to us with. The other one is size, and the other one is industry. And so if there are other ones, then absolutely. It'll be great also if there are cases. Sorry, Steve, one more thing. It'll be great if we have cases that actually are also closed, which shows the results, because that's where, the juicy juice is. It's like, okay, this is the pain point. This is what we did. This is the end result based on the work.
What I was going to say, so now it's thoroughly thought this out, but I don't know what the case study looks like, but maybe there's a comprehensive package example, and maybe there's some piece part things that are still valuable. I don't know if that makes sense, but perhaps.
No, it does. It does. We can, depending on the use cases that we gather, we can then figure out if we take it comprehensive or take it, piecemeal, or we highlight in one the equity planner and the other one, I'd love to, like, Michael, for example, had a really good note about the alignment, how there are 9 people, 9 clarity 1, and what do we do to bring them in alignment? So those are all very important details that we can highlight.
I think those are the kind of cases that will be identifiable quickly by people that we're going to come in contact with, where we might not have 9, but they may find that they've got an organization and there's the top 4 people are not in alignment at all. And one of the things that we do is we do enough diagnostic to identify the fact that they are not aligned and that the failure of the organization to optimize its performance is because they're not able to get into alignment. And so we have kind of 3 choices. One, we can let it run where it is and say, thank you, but we aren't going to work on that because you guys just don't seem to care. Or 2, we'll say, we'll work on it, but we're going to find out how committed are you to doing it. So we're going to put some money on the table and said, okay, it's going to cost you $25,000 and we're going to we need this, this, and this. Are you guys ready to do it? And the last one says, we'll give you a proposal and you can go do it yourself. But if you don't do it, then don't talk to us about how it could have been. Instead, tell them, if you don't do it and you try it and you stumble, that's probably a further amplification of the fact that there is a major alignment issue.
Yeah. I have also one note I wanted to add to the previous conversation we have with you, Mike. So you're talking about these 9 people and 9 different sets of sales profile or ability. I feel like having the sales process, it's much bigger than the style of the people that do the sales. So, and maybe this is something, because I've had this before, they can all have 9 styles as long as their activities, fit within an agreed upon sales process. And the sales process is the funnel. So you work the funnel, you have your outreach, you manage your outreach, you manage the response to the outreach. You can go out there and be your own person when it comes to delivering your message. However, the back end should always fit into an agreed upon sales process that everybody, uses. That means that their notes go in into their CRM, and they're using a CRM, and they are looking at their data, and they have a agreed upon outreach program with a perp that meets their marketing strategy. So I think that sometimes people, think of a sales process as the individual style somebody uses to achieve the results. However, the true process is the platform, the back end, that the outputs of every individual style go in and out to achieve the goal.
And also, to add to that, they also should have, excuse me, part of the process should be accountability, right? So they need to go over what everyone's been doing monthly. But what have you done? Show me what you're working on. Go through this. Do you need any help? Can I help you with that? Maybe I can help you with that. Maybe you can help me with this. So if, that, I think that's that could be part of a process, is that we're going to do our own, we're going to go off and do our own things, but we're going to come back and we're going to record what we're doing. We're going to show what we're doing, and we're going to report it out to each other. We're going to hold each other accountable, and we're going to help each other. And that may be the sales process. Yeah. I mean, I have a different style. I go out and I go out to people I don't even know, and I have my own targets. And there may be some people that really like to get more work from their current clients. So that's the way they get work, right? So they're going to go to their present client base and try to get more from that, right? Instead of trying to get new work from new people, they get new work from their client base. And that may be a style they're more comfortable with. That's fine. If you can get work that way and it works, that's great. Who are you reporting? Who's holding you accountable to that process? And you may need help at times, right? And you're afraid to ask for it. And listen, I may be able to help you with that. I know you're trying to pitch this to this client of ours, but I know more about it maybe than you do, and I can help you with that. So you're right. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a process, even though, you're divorcing it from the individual approaches. I got you.
So one thing that I've used in the past, both as a person that was part of the company and needed help, and sometimes with clients, Michael, there are some really capable fractional sales, like growth officers or sales, and deployed correctly, they are invaluable because you don't have to pay full price for them. They are there and they have a specific scope of what they do. And ultimately, in the end, you get the best of the best without necessarily paying full price. And then you use your organization to execute upon either the strategy or the process that they help you set up. And sometimes when you have 9 people, it's nice to have an outsider to introduce what needs to be done, and it's not for debate, and people tend to be more agreeable to fall in line than trying to democratically develop it inside without an outsider's help.
Thank you. Very, very good insight.
Piggyback on those comments, actually we have a sales leadership group that we meet once a month. Ed and I are hosting an event tonight, but in that fractional sales leader role, there's a great deal of assessment, a valuable assessment that, let's not set people up for failure. Not everybody is set up to be a sales front of the office type individual. So that assessment can be really invaluable to at least, kind of deal with what you got and be realistic about what you got versus continue to try to get your head against the wall and expect different results. So that could be, when you're building out your expansion plan, nothing really happens until there's a sale. And that's all well and good to put things out on the planner that we submit, but do we have a good assessment of the talent that's available, and then building in that expense associated with that individual coming in? Growth is just expensive, so we need to be, if it's $120,000 line item that they have to add to their budget, because no one in this case, the design firm, wants to do the sales, then, that's probably a hard nut to swallow or whatever, but at least it's on the budget and we're being realistic about what needs to happen. So, because the success is going to be, the growth is going to be based on, do we have the sales talent in-house or we have to go out of house for it?
Well, part of that also is to get folks to start thinking more in terms of building value versus generating current profit. And that's always a tough thing, especially these smaller firms, smaller companies, right? They're lifestyle businesses. Owners look at outlays as expenses and it's less money in their pocket. They don't realize that spending this money in the long run is going to increase their bottom line profit and also increase the value of their company when they go to market, right? In other words, it'll increase their multiple. Even though it's a short-term hit to profitability, that's a mindset, a paradigm shift that a lot of these smaller owners need to understand. But we know that. But I've seen it in my career, public accounting for sure. They're all hyper-focused on current year profitability and how much can I take out, how much can I spend? Well, this has been great. I really learned a lot, as always. It's always a great interaction.
It's nice to see you, my friend. It's been a while.
Yes.
Well, I take it.
Good there in Florida.
I take it George didn't exactly tell anybody that he wasn't going to be there today.
All right. I mean, we not to denigrate George, but we seem to be able to do this on our own.
I agree with you completely. And I told him at one time, I said, you need to be passing the baton around to some of our other people.
Yeah, that's kind of the message too. Sometimes when I talk to owners and I tell them, look, I go, let's use the NFL as an example, right? When you watch, and I use the Dallas Cowboys, although I'm not a Cowboys fan. When you watch the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, where does that owner sit during the game? He sits in the owner's seat, right? He's not on the field. He's not. He doesn't have a headset on. He's not calling plays, right? I mean, you have to think of yourself like Jerry Jones. You're sitting in the owner's seat. You already established your leadership team. They know what they're doing. They're very data driven, right? You always see those guys with those iPads looking at stuff. I mean, that's a perfect the perfect analogy, right? You need to start thinking like a football owner. You sit up, you're in the owner's box, right? That's where you should be putting yourself, not in the field of play, not calling the plays, not doing all that stuff. So
that's a good analogy, but Jerry Jones isn't the best example of it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I'll use who owns the Chiefs. I'll use the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, that's a team you can look up to, especially. Sure enough, last night they pulled that game out too in overtime, and they're just, I forgot is it Lamar? What's his name?
Lamar Hunt.
Lamar?
Yeah.
Okay. He's not on the field.
Since we're talking about it, it's funny you guys are bringing it up because I was on my conversation with George this week. I was going to suggest that maybe we add a couple of segments to this conversation. And I feel like, maybe we can get a little bit more fancier and start either learning from each other's cases or talking more in depth on certain things and, sort of create more depth in both the learning and the conversation. What do you guys think?
George actually tried that a while back and he got
well, then, see, George and I are in the same wavelength, but looks like we were not ready then. Well, if it doesn't work, then I will not try. But I was just thinking.
So maybe the idea sounded.
Well, the other thing, this has always been kind of a little bit of a free flow of thoughts on George's, has been kind of giving him the platform for introduction. The other one that you can do is just say, okay, pick this. What is this? This is every Tuesday, right? So maybe the third Tuesday, schedule a separate time. Maybe even using the same login and everything, but that particular is dedicated to a review, and it's one specific topic versus a free flow. I think could be enough if there's enough volunteers, they could run that meeting, and all we need to do is set up the channel, and then you're invited to come in, and it's good discipline to kind of go through that and explain, the case and get your proverbial story together. And, if we can help a growth driver advisor get that done, I bet you can get some people to volunteer that's saying, okay, your date is November, next person is December, and just pick a time, and it's outside this meeting, but it's still using the same login and whatever. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, the way I think about it is that we are very lucky because we have the most, brainy, educated, well, versed peer group when it comes to growth advisory. And just like we do that with our clients, if we bring a bunch of CEOs together, I think we can be, our own brain trust for each other and have a hot seat or something. So, help each other grow and solve problems or have a different point of view or.
I haven't done it recently, but I have in the past sent George a note saying, hey, I need some help on X. Can we talk about X in the coffee Klatsch? So yeah.
Wonderful.
So we ought to be doing things.
Okay.
One more thing you can
Well,
do.
I think.
well, most of the time, you want something done, get a woman involved, because they're going to keep us on the course.
No comment.
Thank you for volunteering.
I know. I mean, there is a lot of wonderful things that come from unstructured conversations. I think that a mixture of unstructured and structured actually is very powerful because they have different cadence and they bring out different things. But just a thought.
Well, I, for one, may have to call George separately because I missed his weather report. I always enjoy his weather report. Weather report being what's going on in his tool belt.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I'm going to set up some time with him when he's available and it's good for him because sometimes I worry. He's very gracious. And I know that when he can, he picks up the phone, but I know he also is very busy. So I would like to schedule it so he, place it in the calendar and he doesn't mess up whatever it is that he's doing.
Yeah, I've got a question for Ed.
Yeah.
How much would you charge for a due diligence report on a business, ballpark wise? Not a quality of earnings, just these are the numbers and these are what, and we're going to take the numbers at face value and this is what the numbers say.
$7,500.
Okay. Thank you. I was thinking something along those lines.
Can you please repeat it again? What is 7,500?
I was asking for what a price ought to be for a due diligence report for a business.
What does that entail, Ed? What do you do? What does that $7,500 include?
It's going to include the detailed analysis of the historical financials, look at budget projections and performance on the company, and then look at the internal personnel factors on the organization. How much turnover has there been in the senior people and strengths and dynamics there? And then the last but not least, you look at its market position and how well it's positioned in the marketplace. So you have to look at competitive statement of where they are versus the competitors, and is it a local only, or is it a regional, or is it more of a national business?
Do you do anything about their compliance, what their compliance performance